This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
And it's about standards and public life. No, I'll tell you what's hypocrisy, Narinda.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin.
We believe in the UK.
No bias, no censorship.
It just doesn't make sense to me. He wasn't doing his job as Chancellor.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GBNews.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
I think I've seen probably quite enough of Matt Hancock to last me a lifetime.
I'll also be getting to know you better, travelling to find out what you think about the politicians who are fighting for your vote.
They've got to get this country back on track.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. only on GB News, on TV, radio and online.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. Tonight, the game is up for scheming Sturgeon as the Supreme Court sensationally ruled she cannot hold a lawful second referendum without Westminster's permission. But will that stop her deranged independence push? Will it? Heck.
We must and we will find another democratic, lawful and constitutional means by which the Scottish people can express their will.
In my digest next, I issue a rallying cry to all of us with love for the Union. Stand up to scheming Sturgeon now before she finds a new way to destroy us. Then I'll get the thoughts of my superstar panel. Dawn Neeson, Sam Dowler, and making his debut, Mark Levett, a.k.a. the Beast, star of hit quiz show The Chase. As the number of illegal immigrants in hotels reportedly hits 40,000. Does the government care about how ordinary Brits are being impacted by the invasion in the Channel? Well, one man who is fighting for you, tough-talking MP Lee Anderson, has been taking the Home Secretary to task today.
What do I say to the people in Ashfield who say to me this is absolutely ridiculous?
Well, I agree that we are in a crisis.
Join me for another journey into the real world with Lee Anderson at 9:35. After lawyers claim she was sex trafficked in a bid to restore her UK citizenship, the journalist who knows ISIS bride Shamima Begum the best says we shouldn't believe her, and he feels played after she fed him extraordinary lines like this.
I think you'd be embracing the British way and do Jubilee.
Of course, yeah, I want to be as British as possible.
Top reporter Andrew Jury joins me with more exclusive insight into the mind of a death cult runaway at 10:20. Is Harry Redknapp right that if LGBT fans don't like Qatar anti-gay laws, they shouldn't attend the World Cup at all? England legend Peter Shilton, LGBT activist Peter Tatchell, who's been protesting in Qatar, and former Premier League star Dean Windass tackle that in the clash at 9:20. After being awarded for unproven claims of royal racism, should Harry and Meghan really be anyone's heroes? Royal biographer Angela Levin uncancelled on that at 10:45. Plus, Man of the People and former Corrie star Charlie Lawson exclusively reveals how wokeism has taken hold behind the scenes of the world's longest-running soap. He tackles that and another week of PC pandemonium at 9:50. And
do you remember when you saw it all the way through for the first time and the first thing you thought?
I do. Hugh came up behind me as we were walking out and said, "Is that the most psychotic thing we've ever been in?"
Did I say that?
Oh yes, it's the biggest movie reunion of the Christmas season and the cast of Love Actually back to celebrate its 20th. I'll bring more of that in the Media Buzz at 10. We'll have tomorrow's newspaper front pages and Greatest Britain Union Jackass before the show ends too. This is Dan Wootton Tonight. Let's go. So, my opinion coming up, but you know we do the news first here, so I'm delighted to say, back with the headlines at 9, Bethany Elsey.
Dan, thank you. I am Bethany Elsey, here to bring you up to date from the GB newsroom. Scotland's First Minister has vowed to find another way for Scottish people to express their will. It's after the Supreme Court ruled another independence vote cannot be held without support from Westminster. Nicola Sturgeon said the next general election would act as a de facto referendum. And during a rally outside the Scottish Parliament tonight, she also said it's clear the UK is not a voluntary partnership of nations.
Now, the Westminster establishment may think it can block a referendum, but let me be clear, I am sure on your behalf today, no establishment, Westminster or otherwise, will ever silence the voice of the Scottish people.
The Home Secretary has admitted the government has failed to control the UK's borders and blamed Channel migrants for overcrowding at a processing centre. Almost 4,000 migrants were being held at the Manston Centre in Kent earlier this month. That's more than double its capacity. Well, during a parliamentary hearing, Suella Braverman was asked whose fault it was that was allowed to happen.
I'll tell you who's at fault. Yeah. It's very clear who's at fault. It's the people who are breaking our rules, coming here illegally, exploiting vulnerable people and trying to abuse the generosity of the British people. That's who's at fault.
The Chancellor has asked the Treasury to look into how much could be raised by closing the non-dom tax loophole. Jeremy Hunt has come under fire for not abolishing the arrangement for those who live in the country but pay no UK tax on their offshore income. Labour has accused the government of having gone after working people with tax rises. But Mr Hunt denied the suggestion. There was one rule for the rich and another rule for everyone else. Ukraine's president is addressing the United Nations Security Council in an urgent meeting this evening. It's after the entire Kyiv region has been left without power and water supply following Russian missile strikes on key infrastructure. Half of neighbouring Moldova is also in a blackout. In southeastern Ukraine, a newborn baby has been killed after an airstrike hit a maternity hospital. The two-storey building has been reduced to rubble. The Prime Minister has appointed a senior lawyer to investigate bullying claims against the Deputy Prime Minister. Dominic Raab requested an independent inquiry after 2 formal complaints were made. He says he's confident he'll be cleared of any wrongdoing. And finally, the Met Office is warning there could be potential flooding and transport delays tomorrow, caused by strong winds and heavy rain. A yellow weather warning has been issued for parts of Wales, southern and western England, Northern Ireland and southern Scotland. You're up to date on TV, online and DAB+ radio. This is GB News. Now let's get back to Dan.
The game is up for scheming Sturgeon. All she has left is grievance politics. Diversion, division, delusion. Because today's devastating Supreme Court decision smashes her fanciful claim that she could hold a second independence referendum next year. Instead, she's proving she doesn't give a damn about plummeting Scottish living, health and education standards in the midst of an unprecedented cost of living crisis. Nope, she claims she will ignore those issues that really matter to Scots to fight the next election on a shameful single-issue mandate of tearing the UK apart.
We must and we will find another democratic, lawful and constitutional means by which the Scottish people can express their will. In my view, that can only be an election. The next national election scheduled for Scotland is, of course, the UK general election, making that both the first and the most obvious opportunity to seek what I described back in June as a de facto referendum.
No. No. This never-ending fuss cannot go on. The Scottish people must see sense and realise scheming Sturgeon is doing their great nation irreversible damage. As I said here, the moment she announced it, her plan was clearly unlawful and a bluff to keep her party off her back. The entire thing is based on a mirage of a financially secure independent Scotland. In reality, it would struggle without the £40 billion plus it receives from Westminster. Sturgeon's claim that an independent Scotland could gain EU membership without adopting the euro is just another fantasy. This dangerous woman has become a propagandist and is now putting her people at risk, as the former Prime Minister Theresa May so accurately outlined at PMQs today.
Scotland is a proud nation with a unique heritage. It is a valued member of our family of nations, a union of people bound through the generations by shared interests. Does my right honourable friend agree with me that this morning's Supreme Court decision gives the Scottish nationalists, the SNP, the opportunity for once to put the people of Scotland first and end its obsession with breaking us apart?
Less than a third of folk voted for the SNP at the last Scottish parliamentary elections. And at the time, scheming Sturgeon encouraged those who didn't support independence to vote for her to get Scotland through the COVID pandemic, which, remember, she loved so much, didn't she? She's tried every fix in the book, including giving 16-year-olds the vote. Even then, she didn't secure an SNP majority and has had to be propped up by Green extremists. The polls have consistently shown less than half of Scots even want a referendum. So there is no mandate. Scotland is an amazing place with the best people. My partner is Scottish. I love spending as much time there as possible. But the harsh reality is that under the SNP's governance, it has struggled with record drug deaths, a catastrophically bad health system, record ambulance waiting times, and increasingly mad hard-left identity politics, leading J.K. Rowling to decry Sturgeon as a, quote, destroyer of women's rights. The 2014 referendum was billed on the record by the SNP as a once-in-a-generation electoral event.
Next year, we have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to chart a new course for our country.
These kind of referendums are once-in-a-generation events. This is probably a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity before our once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Once-in-a-generation opportunity. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Take this once-in-a-generation, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, a once-in-a-generation thing, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Once in a lifetime, she said numerous times, but less than a decade on, Sturgeon wants to ignore the law to give her die-hard supporters a vote. But ordinary Scots are waking up to her game. The First Minister is a divisive nationalist prepared to lie to her people to appease her rabid base. Today, the game must finally be up. To respond now, my superstar panel. Former editor, current columnist for the Daily Star, Dawn Neeson. Star of The Chase, Mark Lebet, a.k.a. The Beast. And broadcaster, Sam Dowler. Dawn Neeson, she said it numerous times. Once in a lifetime, once in a generation. Surely the Scots have to realise now Sturgeon is going to drive their country into the ground with this divisive
Well, the one thing Nicola never, or scheming Sturgeon, as you call her, never explained...
Yes, it's catching on. Dawn Neeson's going to use it in her column now.
I prefer Naughty Nicola because that's another side we could go down, but we're not allowed to, are we?
Please don't. Please don't.
And I'm not going to. In any case, the one thing Nicola never goes into is how they're going to fund devolution, because they can't afford it. I mean, you know, the tax revenue we get from Scotland is 73.8 billion, but we give them 97.5 billion. So, and we've agreed to 41 billion in the budget, wasn't it? So they can't afford to do it. And they want independence from the UK so they can then go and be dependent on the EU. How is that, and how is it all going to work with the borders, the currency, people working here, imports, exports? Dan, there is so much to unpick here. You could take your entire programme talking about this subject. But she never explains to the Scottish people how they're going to fund it. It's all rhetoric, it's all that nationalistic jingoism. It's never about how it's actually going to work.
Mark, you think if the Scots want to go there, they have a right to go?
Yeah, vox populi, vox deorum. You know, the voice of the people is the voice of God. And in a democracy, you have to respect that. I'm not going to worry about how they get to that situation, but if they have a referendum or whatever that says 50.1 or whatever decide to go, then they must go.
But how often do they have a right to have a referendum, though? Because, what, is it every 5 years until they get the result they want?
I think they're in a horrible situation right now because the current 50-odd SNP MPs are effectively political eunuchs on the opposition bench. And the perversity is the Labour doing so well, or it looks like they will, means we could flip straight to a majority Labour government and once again they'll be on the opposition bench just sitting there fuming. Their only realistic chance is Labour having to form a coalition government with them at the next election. And let's face it, if the Labour Party gets into power for the SNP, it's far worse than the Tories, because Labour are going to stick it to the SNP at every opportunity to help Scottish Labour.
Keir Starmer has actually said that as well, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He has said there will be no unity.
I know, it is hilarious, actually, because this week we keep on hearing Starmer sounding more Conservative than the Conservatives.
Oh, God, yeah.
And I have to say, and you know how much I criticise slippery Starmer here on the show, but his spokesman was right today. The moment this Sturgeon gave that address, the Labour spokesman came out and said, we will not negotiate either before the election or after the election, no matter how much we need the SNP, Scottish independence will not be on the table. Sam, where do you stand on this?
So I think this is Nicola Sturgeon's raison d'etre. She's gone on about this.
She has others.
Yeah, forever and ever. I mean, like, you know.
Well, she's becoming a single issue politician.
Yeah, exactly. Between Nicola Sturgeon and, you know, Alex Salmond, with like a non-fishy First Minister, perhaps. But you know, like, as with Brexit as well, I think, you know, even if it's down to 51% and 49%, I still don't think that is the will of the people, because you still have half of the people that don't agree with it. So I think, you know, I don't know why she's still going on about this when it's such a touchy subject at a time when obviously people have other problems. We have cost of living. We have, you know,
of course there is so much else you should be focusing on. Look, Mark, you are the quiz maestro. If there was a question in a quiz, how many years is in a generation? What would you answer?
Not 8, that's for sure.
Well, I know from a sociological point of view they do it by the grandfather, and that's normally rated at between 30 and 40 years, depending on the time span.
OK, and
that's a two-generational thing, so probably 15 to 20 years. But again, this is politics, not facts.
Well, that's true.
And if you look at generations in the Tory party, it's about 6 months, isn't it, really?
I know, but Sam, you've
6 weeks, actually, to be honest.
I know, but no, Dawn, because changing leader, even though I think what's happened in the Tory party over the past few weeks has been disgraceful, I'm on the record about that, changing leader is very different to tearing up the United Kingdom. And this idea, by the way, that all Scots are united behind that is absolute.
Of course it isn't.
Balderdash.
No.
It is a divided country. So what, you're going to divide the union to appease actually a minority of Scots?
Well, this is the thing. It is a minority, and it would be interesting to see what a referendum would say. I mean, would they lose it? And
I think they probably would lose, but it's not the point. We can't take the risk.
No, well, I mean, but in Nicola Sturgeon's defence, oh, my God, where am I going?
Who are you?
She would say that the generation thing, so much has changed since that statement was made, i.e. the whole war in the Ukraine, the pandemic, the effect on the way the world is.
But you can make the same statement about Brexit as well.
Of course you could, Sam. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
And Scotland were anti-Brexit, and you would say that you could say at the moment that the people who voted for Brexit, 60% now say they wouldn't vote for it.
Well, why don't we twist it?
We're in a changing scenario.
So you want another Brexit referendum now too, Sam?
Yeah, well, why not?
Okay, well,
why not? It's been a generation since 2016.
Let's just do life-changing referendums every 7 or 8 years. Why the hell not?
I think with a referendum it should be at least 5% either way. Do you know what I mean? It shouldn't be just 1%. It shouldn't be like half a percent.
Do you know why you say that? Because you lost.
No, I think
because you lost.
No, but it should be across the board.
I love that. I love that. So you're now changing. You want to rewrite.
It wasn't him personally, by the way. Just saying. But here's something.
Final word, Dawn.
Why don't we have a referendum in England and Wales as to whether we want to hold on to Scotland?
Of course we do. We love Scotland.
Well, I don't agree with that, Dawn, but what I think absolutely should be the case is if there is going to be a vote at any point, which, by the way, I think should be in another generation, everyone in the United Kingdom should vote. It impacts us all.
Of course it does,
And, of course, Sturgeon doesn't even want Scots who live in England and Wales and Northern Ireland to vote. And we know why. We know why. Dawn Neeson, Mark Levitt, Sam Dalla, my superstar panel, and they're here all evening. But coming up, as 40,000 illegal migrants reportedly end up in hotels, does the government care about the impact of the Channel crisis on ordinary Brits? Westminster's toughest talking MP, Lee Anderson, is fighting for you. He'll be here at 9:35. But up first, is Harry Redknapp right that if LGBT fans don't like Qatar anti-gay laws, they shouldn't attend the World Cup? England legend Peter Shilton, LGBT activist Peter Tatchell, who has protested in Qatar at risk to his personal safety, and former Premier League star Dean Windass. Tackle that after the break, but your voice most important, so email me, dan@gbnews.uk, tweet me at GBNews, our poll running there too. The results and the clash straight after the break.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
I think I've seen probably quite enough of Matt Hancock to last me a lifetime.
I'll also be getting to know you better, travelling to find out what you think about the politicians who are fighting for your vote.
They've got to get this country back on track.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. only on GB News, on TV, radio and online.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Time now for The Clash. Qatar's draconian LGBT laws continue to make headlines, with several fans and journalists reporting rainbow clothing being forcibly removed by aggressive security guards before entering stadiums. The authoritarian crackdown has sparked further uproar, but veteran football manager Harry Redknapp waded into the row yesterday by saying if you don't like the country's laws, it's quite simple. Just don't go.
You know, I agree with Harry Kane. I agree with all of, what's going on but it's their country. I don't know. We've gone to their country. If you feel that strong about it, then don't play or don't go.
So what do you think? Is Harry Redknapp right that if LGBT fans don't like Qatar's anti-gay laws, they shouldn't attend the World Cup? Dan at gbnews.uk. Tweet me at gbnews. Our poll running there too. But let's make your mind up with the help of former England legend Peter Shilton, former Premier League player Dean Windass. They're lining up against human rights campaigner Peter Tatchell, of course, recently visited Qatar at great risk to his own safety. So, Peter Shilton, you're with Harry Redknapp on this one.
To a certain degree. I mean, I take Harry's point, but, the fans want to go over there to support England. They want to be there when England hopefully win the World Cup. That's quite understandable. They will know what the laws are before they go over there. And obviously, they're going to have to abide by those laws. I think I personally are totally against what they, the laws that they have. It's totally against what we believe in this country. We're terrific with, with gay rights and everything else, with racism. But, it is a football tournament. FIFA said, let's have it there. And, of course, they're trying to put their laws into place. I personally don't like, on the football pitch, with making statements. I think we've got to play football, go out there and concentrate on the game. But do it beforehand, as much as you want, make big sounds that we don't really want to go there, but we've got to go because that's where the World Cup is, and make a statement. I'm not saying we shouldn't do, but that, as far as I'm concerned, I think the fans look as though they're enjoying it, but obviously a lot of things happening that outside the stadium with the security that we're not used to, and it is unacceptable by our laws.
But Peter Tatchell, isn't it a fair point to say, look, just like, by the way, I never travel to Dubai because being gay is illegal, so I wouldn't go to Dubai if they happened to be hosting something that I was interested in attending?
Well, first can I say, I think a good word needs to be put for Harry Redknapp, because he did say that he supported Harry Kane and the pro-LGBT stance with the armband. He said that was a good idea and he understood why Harry did it. So, on one hand, he's
but he didn't do it, though, did he, Peter? That was the issue. He didn't do it.
Well, exactly. But on the one hand, Harry's saying that it was a good gesture, but on the other hand, he's saying, let's just get on and play football. So he's a bit divided in what he's saying. I'd contrast with Roy Keane, the former Manchester United manager, who said that the Harry Kane should have just gone ahead and done it and taken the punishment. He said that would have been a very powerful indictment of Qatar and FIFA. But of course, I appreciate that would have been a pain for Harry and for the England team. The risk of being sent off eventually, getting a further booking, that would be a very risky strategy. But I do agree that, if you don't like Qatar's laws, then don't go. And also, by going, whatever your view is, you are colluding with a sexist, homophobic and racist regime. So don't go, stay away. In that respect, Harry Redknapp is absolutely right.
Because, Dean Windass, that is the point, isn't it? You've got all of these folk using the tournament to virtue signal, but at the same time, I'm a bit like they don't really care about this, because when push came to shove, Kane didn't wear the silly little One Love thing. So it's sort of proved that actually it is just virtue signalling rather than something he's truly passionate about.
Yeah, I just think, listen, I agree with the lads in the sense I agree with Pete, I agree with Harry. You know, it doesn't matter what sexuality you are. You know, everybody's, you know, there's no running away from things like that. I think that when you want to go watch a game of football, you know the repercussions. If you know you're going to break the rules, that's listen, it's their country. You've got to abide by their country. You just said about Dubai. You know, everybody knows the rules in Dubai. So, you know, if you do something wrong, you know, I think FIFA have said, haven't they, Dan, that 7 years in prison. You know, if you break these rules. So for me, it just comes down to common sense. And listen, we're all trying to focus on the football as well. You know, as English people, we want to win. As Peter said, we want to win the World Cup. We want to get as far in the tournament. So with Harry not wearing the armband, has that come from the FA? Has that come from Gareth? You know, for me, why make an issue? You know, when okay, I won't wear the armband. We can just focus on football. But you know, as far as it's just taken away from the football. But obviously, yeah, everybody's got rules, and you've got to abide by them. Unfortunately, because if you don't, you'll pay the price.
I think it's bringing politics onto the football pitch, isn't it? You know,
well, it is.
You know, I mean, where does it stop? That's the big thing. I'm all for protesting, as I said beforehand, and you know, I just think that once you get on the football pitch or you're starting a game, I think as a player personally, you want to concentrate on the match. You don't want to be thinking, crikey, you know, like the Iran team, you know, they were very brave not to sing the national anthem, but they started the game pretty poorly, really. They finished quite well. You want mentally to be switched on to the match, not thinking about, you know, making a statement on a football pitch. You know, people will say, no, that's great, that's brilliant. And you could, you know, that's a point of view. As a footballer and, you know, loving the game of football, I just think we should go out there and just concentrate on the football once we're on the pitch.
I just think, Dan, if you're in that situation,
yes,
you know, I think that if you're in that situation where you know, whatever your sexuality is, and you know you're going to go watch a game of football, and you know the rules are going to take place, you know, you're stupid enough to break them rules, and that's for me is down to common sense. You know, yes, go and enjoy the game. You know, it's about the drinking ban as well. That's their culture. That's just the way they live their life, and you've got to respect that.
Peter Tatchell, you obviously went to Qatar before the World Cup. It was a really brave thing to do, to protest. So you clearly actually think it is important to bring politics into the World Cup to raise awareness for your cause. There you are.
Win the game, that's the priority. But that shouldn't exclude the possibility of taking a stand as well. And I would pay tribute to the German football team, who took a very different stance from England. They were banned from wearing the armband, but chose, when they went on the pitch, to cover their mouths with their hands to indicate that FIFA had gagged them. And they also had rainbow insignia on some of their sports kit and shoes. Now, they defied FIFA, and in fact, they weren't penalised. So it makes England's climb down look rather unnecessary and a bit weak.
But what did that achieve, though?
Well, I think it sent a very important signal around the world that the German team is saying that there shouldn't be discrimination and that they stand with LGBT plus people on the pitch and off the pitch. And I know from the feedback I've had from people inside Qatar that the many Qataris who do want democracy and human rights, they think these protests are fantastic. It's given them a huge psychological and emotional boost.
OK, fascinating debate. Thank you so much for having it. That is the LGBT campaigner Peter Tatchell, England legend Peter Shilton, and the former Premier League star Dean Windass. Who do you agree with? Is Harry Redknapp right that if LGBT fans don't like Qatar anti-gay laws, they shouldn't attend the World Cup at all? Annie on Twitter says, I think it is impossible for them to go. The choice has been taken away from them. With such intolerance, the Games should never have been hosted in Qatar. My goodness, Annie, that is something I certainly agree with. From Matthew, yes, and if football players or football associations disagree, then they should also have had the courage to boycott the event. Of course, it's too late now. And Ches says, I'm a libertarian, so I believe in the philosophy of live and let live. But there are far too many people in the West who hold a colonialist view that we should impose Western culture on all other cultures. And your verdict is now in. Well, 91% of you overwhelmingly in favour with Harry Redknapp, who says that LGBT fans just simply shouldn't attend the Qatar World Cup. 9% of you say he was wrong. Coming up, after they're accused of losing millions of viewers over PC storylines, has the woke agenda taken over backstage at Corrie 2? Former star of the soap and now man of the people, Charlie Lawson, has an exclusive to reveal on this at 9:50. But next, with the nation's hotels crammed full of a reported 40,000 illegal migrants, does the government even care about how the Channel crisis is impacting ordinary Brits? Westminster's toughing stalking MP, I'll get that right, in a moment, is fighting for you, so we'll venture into the real world with Lee Anderson straight after the break.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online. Across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
And it's about standards and public life. No, I'll tell you what's hypocrisy, Narinda.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin.
We believe in the UK.
No bias, no censorship.
It just doesn't make sense to me. He wasn't doing his job as Chancellor.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Every Friday and Sunday night from 9, it's Mark Dolan Tonight.
We're on the same page again. There's something weird happening.
Let Ian finish. Don't be such a cranky.
That mini budget was the tip of the iceberg.
And on Saturday, my show just got bigger. From 8, it's Mark Dolan's Saturday Night In.
You can't govern a country if you can't speak. Stop talking.
My God, we reached the end. I've never been early in my life. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
It's time for The Real World with Lee Anderson, Westminster's toughest talking MP and not shy of tackling the country's most important issues. Today, Lee confronted Home Secretary Suella Braverman about the invasion of more than 40,000 illegal Channel migrants reportedly now living in British hotels after the emptying of the Manston Processing Centre. So here's the King of the North in action.
What do I say to the people in Ashfield who say to me, this is absolutely ridiculous? We've got hard-working, tax-paying people in Ashfield paying their rates, paying their taxes, helping to look after our own homeless people and put them in local hotels. Now they've been turfed out to put people in who, quite frankly, have been trafficked. They've got no right to be here, and some of them are criminals. Please tell me what I say to them.
Well, I agree that we are in a crisis, and I don't think it's fair to try and minimise the challenge that we are facing.
Lee, were you satisfied with Suella's response?
No, not at all. Not at all. I'm not satisfied with the response. The response was expected. I've been banging on about this now for 18 months to 2 years, the same question. At the start, I was on my own. A few colleagues have joined in now. We're making the same noises every single day. Look, it's an absolute scandal. I'm embarrassed. We've got people in Ashfield that's been turfed out of a hotel for homeless people, and we've got the illegals up in there. Like I said to Suella today, what do I say to my constituents? Other than I'm sorry, we've let you down and we should be ashamed of ourselves.
Because, Lee, these figures that have emerged today are astronomical. I mean, we, the British taxpayer, in the middle of a cost of living crisis, we are paying for 40,000 migrants to stay in hotels. I mean, this is not sustainable.
It's a scandal, Dan. I mean, I can bang on all I want. I come on your show every week and bang on about it. I bang on about it in the chamber at work. I go and see the Home Secretary, I speak to colleagues, and still nothing changes. It's got worse. We've got the borders bill in. We've got the Rwanda plan coming. It's got worse and worse and worse. It's time for drastic action, and I keep saying it, and they think I'm some sort of lunatic over at that place. When they land on our shores, we should give them a cup of tea, a couple of sandwiches, and send them straight back to France the same day. Once we start doing that, they'll think twice about coming.
But, Lee, why can your fellow MPs not understand that unless you do that, and do that now, I can't see any way for your party to win the next election?
Dan, I come on this show every week called The Real World. They don't live in the real world. They live in the Westminster bubble. I suspect once the illegals start dropping on their doorstep, in their hotels, then they'll start and kick off about it, which we're seeing at the moment. I said it before, some of these MPs have got second homes in London. Let's turf them out, put some of these illegals in, and then they'll start making a noise about it in the chamber the day after.
And this is destroying towns now as well, Lee, isn't it? Because there are certain communities now where actually 3 or 4 of the main hotels are shut for the foreseeable future. And this is actually now stopping tourism. That then impacts local businesses. And actually, it will end up changing the fabrics of the community.
So the hotels that we're talking about, Dan, they're used for tourism, as you rightly say. They're used for tradesmen and for contractors who travel in to do the jobs, to do work, and they're used for the homeless from local authorities. They've been displaced now. Where do they go? Like you say, at Skegness, where a lot of my constituents go, they're not going to be able to get into hotels next year. And believe me, these illegals are stopping the hotels. They ain't going out buying candy floss and toffee apples and spending money in the slot machines. They're more likely to be up to other activities, if you know what I mean.
No, I do. I do. It is an absolute disgrace. It has to be sorted. But I just don't feel any sign of it. Lee, actually, I'm a big supporter of Suella Braverman. I think she wants to do the right thing. In fact, Lee, I'm convinced she wants to do the right thing. But she's having her hands tied.
She's been dealt a poor hand. I'm not.
Why doesn't Sunak man up and realise the issue?
The whole of Parliament needs to man up, Dan. There's a massive issue.
But surely it's on him now.
Yes.
It's got to be on the Prime
Prime
Minister.
The buck stops with the Prime Minister, absolutely.
Because this is a national emergency.
And I honestly think that all MPs, not just the Prime Minister, all MPs there, at that place I work at, they just don't get it, Dan. I mean, I keep banging on about it till I'm absolutely blue in the face. I feel sick when I see the boats come over. I'm going to keep on. When I'm in the chamber next week, I shall be on again. If I get a chance tomorrow, I shall be on again. I shall keep going on and on, why ever I'm the MP for Ashfield.
Well, you know what, Lee? I think that's great because genuinely, I don't feel the disconnect between the Westminster elite and the media elite in this country has ever been more vast with the ordinary, hard-working folk of Britain. I mean, I thought it was bad after Brexit, right? Because
Obviously, they were trying to thwart the biggest Democratic vote in a generation. But I actually think with this crisis, it's top because, as you say, they just don't get it. They just do not get it. They do not understand. And the terrible thing is they immediately call people like you or me or your constituents who have a problem with this racist and bigoted. That is the ugliest thing they possibly could do. Because actually, do you know, when it comes to human rights and being humane, the best thing anyone could do is stop the boats because you smash the human trafficking rings. You know,
How about us being humane down to the homeless people in Ashfield just served out this hotel?
Absolutely.
They're my priority.
No, and they should be. Look, elsewhere this week, Lee, you backed England. Well, England actually backed out, didn't they, of this plan to do their virtue signalling at the World Cup. Harry was going to run out, wasn't he, with a little rainbow. There it is, a little rainbow. And then when the FA said, naughty boy, you might get a yellow card, all of a sudden he was no longer the new Martin Luther King, no longer the new Nelson Mandela. He said, oh, sorry, won't do that. And I think that is the issue which I know, again, you've been taking a stand on for the past year when you boycotted the team because of their decision to take the knee at the Euros.
Yeah, what a bunch of snivelling, pathetic cowards they are, eh, Dan?
Don't hold back.
Hey, don't hold back. I mean, absolute spineless, gutless. Look, they made a stand last year. I didn't agree with that. But they came out as a team that would make a stand, a political stand, to support minority groups in this country, all over the world. But now they've got a chance to make a real difference to support the gay community. What do? They say, no, it's not worth it because I might get a yellow card. They should hang their heads in shame. I don't really blame the players. This is the FA, this is. Yeah. They instruct the players.
But they bottled it.
What a bunch of snivelling weasels.
They bottled it.
Bottled it, absolutely bottled it.
And don't you think this is why, actually, just go and play the football. Stop your preaching, stop your lecturing, because you just look like hypocrites. And actually, now we know that they don't really mean it.
That was the point last year, then. Why are we getting involved? Why footballers go and play football? You get paid a lot of money. Go and win a World Cup. I tell you what, go and do what the women did this summer and go and win a trophy for the first time in about 60 years.
Although they did do well.
Very well.
They did do well. We have to say that. Finally, I have to show you this. So your favourite sparring partners at the BBC were shameless in their bias pre-budget. This is something that my team discovered and wanted to play to you.
That's because of the very, very difficult economic situation that we have.
Caused by a former Conservative Prime Minister and former Chancellor, Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng. People will ask, Vicky, what's the point of the Tory party?
So I have
hang on, what is the point of the Tory party?
So I would have to absolutely disagree with what's just been said in Labour. And I will...
And do you know what's extraordinary about that, Lee? Then when the Labour MP spoke, we watched the whole thing. She spoke uninterrupted for about 90 seconds. Is this bias within the BBC now so intrinsic that they don't even realise that it's going on?
Well, she was saying there, what's the point of the Tory party? I would go back at that and say, what's the point of the BBC? And I'll tell you what the point of the BBC is, Dan. It's now the official opposition in this country. The Labour Party's been next to useless for the past 12 years. It's these liberal lefties on the BBC, you know, I don't know where they drag them from. You've got your Linekers, you've got all sorts of nuisances on there. You're spouting their nonsense. You've got the newsreaders, the reporters, all these journalists you see on there absolutely hate the Tory party. They're not anti-Beeb anymore, they're anti-British.
So how are they getting away with it? I would put it to you, Lee, that actually it's partly the fault of your party, which said they were going to get tough on the BBC, decriminalise non-payment of the licence fee, and again, this new regime has bottled
I'm not going to hide away from this, Dan, I agree. I stood up in Parliament and told the Speaker, told the whole of Parliament that I'd ripped my TV licence up. I'm not paying it. I think it's a load of ramble. It's rubbish. And if they come knocking on my door, if they send the heavies round, they'll get told to clear off and go and move in with Lineker for a couple of days. That'll frighten them off, won't it?
Lee Anderson, our King of the North, thank you so much, Lee. Now, coming up, as Dominic Raab undermines Suella Braverman by suggesting the UK doesn't need to break free of the ECHR. Who's in the right when it comes to tackling this very important channel crisis that we've just been discussing with Lee? My superstar panel, including The Beast, returns to deliver their thoughts, and I'll bring you the first of tomorrow's newspaper front pages too. But first, former Corrie star Charlie Lawson exclusively reveals how wokeism has taken hold behind the scenes of the world's longest-running soap. Our Man of the People live straight after the break.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Deems & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel. Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Our man of the people, the Coronation Street legend, Charlie Lawson, is tonight's outsider. Now, Charlie, it was never like this during your almost 30 years on the cobbles as bad boy Jim McDonald. But, as I know, we were the first to talk about this last week, weren't we, Jim? And it's now up, Jim.
Charlie, behave yourself.
I've never done that before. I'm so embarrassed. Sorry, Charlie, but you just got to me there. But Corrie has been accused of losing millions of viewers, hasn't it, because of this obsession with woke storylines. And Charlie, I believe that you have heard that they're now going woke behind the scenes too.
Well, I as you know, Dan, have been doing the autobiography, so I've been talking to a few people over the last few months about old stories and old things I was involved in, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, out of the blue, I was approached by someone who we shall call a freelance writer. And we were chatting away, and I was telling him about the green room where the actors sit in between scenes during the 90s, and I'll come to that in a minute. But he said to me, was I aware that the staff and the cast had been called into a gathering and made to watch a video showing them how not to offend their fellow actors and cast and crew. And I thought I end up saying this every week, Dan, I thought he was taking the piss. But no, it's true, and I believe it's going on in the BBC as well. But the point is, when I was in the green room in the 90s, political correctness hadn't been invented. It was the dirtiest, roughest, toughest, funniest place on the planet. When you put a load of actors together in between scenes and they get bored, you have never heard language so blue and so politically incorrect. And I include all the girls, Eva, Sarah, Annie Kirkbride, God bless her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was absolutely amazing and great fun. They kept us all sane.
Well, Charlie, I'm just trying to imagine the scene, right, of whichever hapless producer has to call across Helen Worth and William Roach and say, oh, we're just going to play you this little video. You've been here for decades, but this is how not... I mean, sure, the old Corrie surely would have told these people to bog off.
Well, I don't know. When there's a three-line whip, which very often happens, you know, from the producer on high, it's normally about something I would suggest is a lot more serious. Like in my day, there was a lot of press leaks. So Carolyn Reynolds and all the other producers would call a team meeting and just say, if I find out who this was, you're out in your arse. But
they were probably calling me up.
So, you know, but I should imagine that most of the cast would have felt a bit let down by this. Yeah. Actors are very good and kind to each other by and large and don't really go around offending each other unless, of course, it's in fun. But, of course, those days it would appear have gone. But
you're
the
not allowed to have
90s
fun
were
anymore.
Brilliant.
You're not allowed to have fun anymore, are you? Look, Charlie, the woke week this week has been out of control, and there are a couple of key stories that I want to talk to you about. So this one astonished me, Charlie. The new Labour Westminster Council has formally abolished the term BAME, but it's what it's replaced it with that is causing a real outrage. Global majority, which means white residents now classed as a minority. I mean, what's this about?
Why are they even doing this? Of course, this is the council, the Westminster Council, and they've got a big deal of previous, haven't they? But, I mean, I'm all for getting rid of stupid words like BAME and all the rest of it. Call a spade or whatever you want to call it, you know what I mean? And before anybody gets arsey about what I just said, that was nothing to do with anything you think it was. But, you know, you say it the way it is, for goodness sake. But as I said, this lot have got previous, and I would be getting rid of all these words and inventions and just telling it how it is. But you're not allowed to do that. You have to come up with a word like BAME, and it becomes a word, and it ceases to mean anything. It's like if you ask a child now what the BBC is, they'll just say, well, it's the BBC. They won't know it's the British Broadcasting Corporation. It's become a word in itself. And BAME and all these other words and letters and all the rest of it, they become words and they become meaningless. You know, the more we can talk about this and the more we can say what we're meant to be saying, then the better. But what is it? A minority? We're a minority now, are we? Okay,
yeah,
all right. Well,
so it's going to be a global majority is going to be the new way to describe black and Asian people. And I mean, look, I can't imagine that they would be happy to be described as the majority. But anyway, look, I want to move on, Charlie, to this case of COVID hysteria, which has reared its ugly head again yesterday after the lefty comic Matt Lucas blasted a fellow airplane passenger for having a cough. So the Bake Off host tweeted, "Shout out to the lady on this flight with a hacking cough and no face mask." Now, Lucas has since deleted the tweet. But, I mean, it's 2022, Charlie. I thought we'd moved on from this nonsense. And actually, is it OK to shame someone for having a cough? Plus, if you actually look at the science, a face mask doesn't solve anything if it's just one of those dirty little cloth numbers.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything anyway, and Whitty and Valence and all that lot go all very quiet about this, but it's coming out more and more every day that, in fact, the whole issue was treated appallingly, badly run, diabolically run, and that I include stupid little face nappies in that as well. But look, I kind of get I was talking to a great friend of mine, Maria Cahill, the other day, and she got COVID, all jabbed up and all the rest of it, and has been very strict with masks and all the rest of it. But she got COVID and she had a terrible, terrible time. So, look, we need to look out for vulnerable people. We've been saying this for 2 bloody years, but Matt ought to wise up, you know what I mean? We've had the boy in New York shouting at waiters and all the rest of it. You don't shout at your fellow passengers because they're not too well. No. I can only hope that poor woman was coughing into her hand.
Yeah.
You know, Matt,
and sometimes
Matt,
it's awkward when you have a cough. Yeah, indeed. Our man of the people, former Curry star Charlie Lawson, who'll be back next week. Thank you, Charlie. But coming up, after her lawyers claim she was sex trafficked in a bid to restore her UK citizenship, Andrew Jury, the journalist who's confronted Shamima Begum time and time again in Syria, says don't be fooled. He'll reveal more damning footage of the world's most notorious runaway at 10:20. But next, a small boats battle is brewing as Dominic Raab undermines Superwoman Suala by suggesting that the UK doesn't need to break free of the ECHR despite the spiralling migrant crisis. I'll ask my superstar panel who's in the right in our Media Buzz. That's straight after the break.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late-night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Dan Wootton. Tonight, a small boats battle is brewing as Dominic Raab undermines Superwoman Suala Braverman by suggesting that the UK doesn't need to break free of the ECHR despite the spiralling migrant crisis.
In terms of pulling out of the ECHR, look, I've heard people make the case for it. I'm not sure pulling out the ECHR will solve the problem.
So who do you think is in the right? The Deputy PM or the Home Secretary? I'll ask my superstar panel next. Dawn Neeson, Sam Dowler, and making his debut, Mark Lebet, the Beast, star of the hit quiz show The Chase. After lawyers claim she was sex trafficked in a bid to restore her UK citizenship, the journalist who knows ISIS bride Shamima Begum best says we shouldn't believe her. And he feels played after she fed him extraordinary lines like this.
Do you think you'd be embracing the British way and doing Jubilee?
Of course, yeah. I want to be as British as possible.
Top reporter Andrew Jury joins me with more exclusive insight into the mind of a death cult runaway. He's live at 10:20. Following a radical NHS proposal, should menopausal women be allowed to work from home? That's our big debate at 10:30. Plus, which famous advocate for bodily autonomy turned down £7.5 million to avoid the jab? And
do you remember when you saw it all the way through for the first time and the first thing you thought?
I do. Hugh came up behind me as we were walking out and said, "Is that the most psychotic thing we've ever been in?"
Did I say that?
It's harder than it looks, really. We'll have all of that and more in the Media Buzz coming up throughout the next hour. We'll have a first look at tomorrow's newspaper front pages too, plus a brand new Greatest Britain and Union Jackass. So make sure you stay up with us. But before that, the news headlines at 10 with Bethany Elsey.
Dan, thank you. Good evening. I am Bethany Elsey, here to bring you up to date from the GB newsroom. Scotland's First Minister has vowed to find another way for Scottish people to express their will. It's after the Supreme Court ruled another independence vote cannot be held without support from Westminster. Nicola Sturgeon said the next general election would act as a de facto referendum. And during a rally outside the Scottish Parliament, she also said it's clear the UK is not a voluntary partnership of nations.
Now, the Westminster establishment may think it can block a referendum, but let me be clear, I am sure on your behalf today, no establishment, Westminster or otherwise, will ever silence the voice of the Scottish people.
The Home Secretary has admitted the government has failed to control the UK's borders and blamed Channel migrants for overcrowding at a processing centre. Almost 4,000 migrants were being held at the Manston Centre in Kent earlier this month. That's more than double its capacity. During a parliamentary hearing, Suella Braverman was asked whose fault it was that was allowed to happen.
I'll tell you who's at fault.
Yeah.
It's very clear who's at fault. It's the people who are breaking our rules, coming here illegally, exploiting vulnerable people and trying to abuse the generosity of the British people. That's who's at fault.
Ukraine's president has pleaded for more support in an urgent meeting of the United Nations Security Council after Russian missile strikes cut off power in the entire Kyiv region. President Zelensky claims there have been over 70 airstrikes just today, one of which hit a maternity hospital in southeastern Ukraine. A newborn baby, 2 days old, has been killed. The US ambassador to the UN, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, said Russia is using winter to intensify its attack.
Putin is determined to reduce Ukraine's energy facilities to rubble. Putin's motive could not be more clear and more cold-blooded. He is clearly weaponizing winter to inflict immense suffering on the Ukrainian people. He has decided that if he can't seize Ukraine by force, he will try to freeze the country into submission.
The Chancellor has asked the Treasury to look into how much could be raised by closing the non-dom tax loophole. Jeremy Hunt has come under fire for not abolishing the arrangement for those who live in the country but pay no UK tax on their offshore income. Labour has accused the government of having gone after working people with tax rises. But Mr Hunt denied the suggestion there was one rule for the rich and another for everyone else. And the Prime Minister has appointed a senior lawyer to investigate bullying claims against the Deputy Prime Minister. Dominic Raab requested an independent inquiry after 2 formal complaints were made. He says he's confident he'll be cleared of any wrongdoing. You're up to date on TV, online and DAB+ radio. This is GB News. Now, let's get back to Dan.
Time for tomorrow's news right now on Our Media Buzz. So I've got the first front pages now. Let's go to the Eye to begin with. And it reports that the PM, Rishi Sunak, faces a battle with unhappy Tory MPs over the apparent lack of an agenda. Number 10 officials have admitted privately that the government desperately needs to introduce new policies as a slew of pre-election resignations are predicted. An agenda, that would be nice, wouldn't it? Probably quite a good idea. The Metro declares that the referendum is in the bin. Oh, that's clever. I like that. After the Supreme Court rules Nicola Sturgeon cannot hold a new Indy Rev 2 without the government's permission, Sturgeon has hit out, saying that democracy won't be denied. On the Daily Mail, motorists have been hit with a record 30,000 parking tickets a day, despite ministers promising to crack down on cowboy operators. Shocking figures reveal ruthless private companies issued 2.7 million fines to drivers between April and June. That's 1 every 3 seconds. The Qatar World Cup is already the funniest in history, says The Star, after a string of upsets. Our old pals Germany lost 2-1 to Japan just a day after the favourites Argentina were beaten by Saudi Arabia. So how do you spell Schadenfreude? Superstar panel back now.
She's the former editor of that paper, still their star columnist. Dawn, that was a good front page, Dawn, I thought. Star of the chase, Mark Levett, a.k.a. The Beast, and the broadcaster and our left-wing beast, Sam Dowler. Now, Suella Braverman's not shy in her beliefs that Britain's migrant crisis could be quelled if we left the European Convention on Human Rights, or the ECHR for short. However, the Home Secretary now appears to be on a collision course with the Deputy Prime Minister Dominic Raab, who took a public dig at Conservative colleagues calling for us to leave the convention. Watch.
Why do we need to be in it at all? Why do we do it on our own? Yeah, why can't we just do it on our own? Why be party to it? Aren't our judges more than capable of making all the decisions all on their own without having to refer to a higher court?
In terms of pulling out the ECHR, look, I've heard people make the case for it. I'm not sure pulling out the ECHR will solve the problems people think that it would. I don't think you would solve all the small boats problem. The Bill of Rights will help in some material respects, but it won't solve the whole problem, and the Home Secretary's quite rightly said there's no silver bullet.
Raab's comments are at odds with the Home Sec, of course, who is one of the most prominent advocates of withdrawing from the ECHR, as she bids to crack the small boat invasion across the Channel. Doing so would allow us to swerve money-grabbing lefty lawyers who stop deportations under EU rules. So I'm really worried about this, Dawn Neeson, because this is the Deputy Prime Minister. He's the Justice Secretary. He's in a really important position here. Unless this government gets some real balls and is prepared to do something like leave the ECHR. I know he says it's not going to be a silver bullet. Nothing is a silver bullet.
No.
But we have to try and do something. And things like the Rwanda scheme, Dawn, simply will not be able to go through while we're still in the ECHR.
Right, OK. Well, there's an awful lot to unpack with this, isn't there? I sort of find myself agreeing, and I'm defending Nicola Sturgeon, but now I'm agreeing with Jeremy. I've completely gone mad. I'm sort of semi-agreeing with Jeremy Hunt on this one because it's...
Dominic Raab,
sorry. It's not a silver bullet.
No.
And if we think back to the original plane, there were 99 people on that plane due to be deported to Rwanda, the one that was held up. Now, 98 of those were were pulled off the plane and allowed to stay by the UK courts. The European Court of Human Rights only stopped one. So whether we are a member of, the European Court of Human Rights or not, I don't think it will make that much difference to the small boat crisis and the Rwanda plan. I'm not even sure that Suella believes in the Rwanda plan anymore because I'm not sure where we are with it, what the latest development is on it. Dan, I think everybody will agree that we need to do something. And everybody's a critic. Everyone's saying, this is wrong, that's wrong, this is wrong. Nobody is saying this is what we need to do.
No, we need solutions. But I think we must leave the ECHR. I feel really strongly about it. Mark, where do you stand on this small boats crisis? Because it was interesting, Lee Anderson earlier saying, actually, outside of the Westminster bubble, outside of the media village, this is the #1 issue for his constituents.
I think this will cost the Conservatives the next election if it hasn't already done. And I despair because I'm only a genius and I can't see a solution to it. Well, no, I can't see anything that somebody isn't going to object to. If you build...
What would the Beast do if he could do anything to turn back the votes?
Pick a part of the countryside with relatively few people in it and build some huge, great, well-built camps. Scotland, which desperately needs employment.
They need people.
But, as you say, it's easy for me to say it. Quite a few people will object. That's why I despair, because you've got Dominic Raab, eminent lawyer, Cruella Braverman, Suella, sorry, Casey. So they're both brilliant lawyers, and they're arguing over it. I mean, I've got a law degree, but I'm not in the same thing as them. If they can't agree, what chance have the rest of us got?
Yeah, but the issue is that 40,000 are now in hotels, Mark. So that means that there are 40,000 hotel spots which are not able to be taken up by tourists or visitors to this country or to towns. Plus, we're spending £7 million a day. It's just unsustainable.
Yeah, and the people who are homeless from Britain who are going, well, you can put them up.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. The only vaguely practical thing is mass production of prefabbed camps, but then you've got to staff them, make sure that there's enough food there. And would the political will there all be people saying that's barbaric? that you're putting them in a camp rather than in a hotel.
Whereas I actually would say the most barbaric thing is allowing the boats to continue.
Of course.
Because that's actually what is emboldening the people smuggling trade. That's what is risking life for them. And Sam, I have to say, you're one of these vile folk on the left, aren't you, who love to throw awful insults at Suella. So when Mark just made a mistake and said Cruella, then you said, oh no, he said it correctly. Why are you so petulant about the Home Secretary, Sam?
After you threw the same insults at Nicola Sturgeon and used the same names
No, I call her Scheming Sturgeon because she is scheming.
I call her Cruella Braverman.
No.
She's not a Braverman. She's a weaker woman.
That's making a comment on her appearance, isn't it?
No, not at all. It's about
her personality.
It's about she wants us to leave the European Court of Human Rights. Human rights. So if we leave that, so that she can, just poke 12 people into a cell and just be happy with that and be like, she was responsible for Munster and all of that. She turned a blind eye until there was 4,000 people living in diphtheria within our country. So you cannot say that the Cruella has nothing to do with her looks at all, unless she has half black hair, half white hair, which she does not have. I'm saying
she'd look great with it, wouldn't she?
She would. But
no,
however,
you seem to be, because this is what fascinates me. So I'm just trying to get my head around this, because this is what fascinates me about the Be Kind left. The sort of vitriol that you used to spew about Priti Patel and that you now spew about Suella Braverman.
I'm not spewing any...
What problem do you have with strong, non-white women in positions of power, Sam?
It's got nothing to do with her colour at all, and that's ridiculous to bring that into the scenario because it isn't anything to do with that.
That's what the left do all the time.
She's somehow managed to out evil Priti Patel.
Evil?
Yes.
Evil?
Yes, evil. Absolutely. Absolutely.
What is... OK, can I just ask you seriously, what is evil about trying to smash people smuggling gangs and stop small boats coming across the channel which are putting tens of thousands of lives
She wants to
at risk?
smash people and shove them on a plane. She already said that it's her dream to fly them over to Rwanda.
What's wrong with living in Rwanda? What's wrong with Rwanda? What's your problem with Rwanda?
Dawn has already said just now that it wasn't anything to do with the European Court of Human Rights. It was to do with us that actually took them off the plane. So why exactly is what she says the right thing to do? She's outraged. She's already shown herself not fit for purpose for even government. She had to be dragged back in for political reasons by Rishi Sunak. So she has no business even being there at all. She's an appalling MP, and I wish for a general election so she can get rid of her.
She's a great MP, and she would be a great Prime Minister of this country.
I really believe that, Dawn Mark. Dawn will agree with me. They will both agree with me.
Who are you with,
never
Mark?
be Prime Minister.
Sam or Dan?
Oh, it's at the time.
I'm with him. We're just going to the pub.
Yeah.
See you later.
There's a genuine point, which is we're all responsible if we're using nasty, disrespectful words to our politicians. I think they're entitled to de facto respect. And the Home Secretary has got the very definition of a poison chalice.
Yeah.
What can she do?
Absolutely.
Send the Royal Navy in to machine gun the boats? Because that's about the only way to stop it, and I think most people would agree that's a bit of an overreaction.
You know, the really sensible solution would be to stop them is to have a clear and easy, accessible asylum centre before they have to cross the channel. Say, in France, which is a much bigger country, they have the space to work with the French.
Should she be Prime Minister? Answer Dan's question. Should she be Prime Minister?
Well, anyone's up for Prime Minister these days.
Would you think she'd be a good Prime Minister?
I don't know, to be honest.
Suella Braverman would be a great Prime Minister of this United Kingdom, and I believe one day it should happen.
Never.
And finally, millions of people paid huge prices for holding the line during the pandemic by refusing to get vaccinated, celebrities included. Megastar rapper and actor Ice Cube dropped his own bombshell revelation this week by admitting he rejected a £7.5 million movie deal after refusing to get the jab.
I turned down a movie because I didn't want to get the jab. You know, I turned down $9 million. Damn. Because I didn't want to get the jab.
You didn't want to get,
F that jab. And fuck y'all for trying to make me get it. So, you know, I don't know how Hollywood feel about me right now. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's an expensive test of integrity, but one he passed with flying colours. I believe in bodily autonomy. Sam, you were scowling at Ice Cube then. Why?
Well, I mean...
Is it not his choice?
Can I put something?
You've jumped in, please.
Sorry, I was lucky enough to film in LA in May 2021, and I had to get personally waved through by Homeland Security through Heathrow to go do my job. But it was interesting when I was there with people, the number of people who were encouraged to call themselves immune because they'd had 2 jabs. And that was the way it had been sold in America. Because they were seriously, we're through this now. And then I went back 12 months later, and they'd gone out the other side and were terrified by Omicron. Whereas we'd gone virtually the other way round. 2021, we were worried. 2022, Omicron, I think most of us had realised that wasn't as bad as it could have been.
Very good point. Mark Lebet, Louise, Sam Dowler, Dawn Neeson. Do stand by, because coming up, I'm not looking at anyone on my panel with this one. Should menopausal women be given permission to work from home? We're going to tackle that in part 2 of the Media Buzz. More front pages on the way too. But first, after lawyers claim she was sex trafficked in a bid to restore her UK citizenship, the journalist who knows ISIS bride Shamima Begum best says we shouldn't believe her. Andrew Jury joins me next with more exclusive insight into the mind of a death cult runaway. Back in a moment.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debate, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness, man.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
I think I've seen probably quite enough of Matt Hancock to last me a lifetime.
I'll also be getting to know you better, travelling to find out what you think about the politicians who are fighting for your vote.
They've got to get this country back on track.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. only on GB News, on TV, radio and online.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by 2 of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Now, on Monday, former ISIS bride Shamima Begum launched an appeal to have her UK citizenship restored, with her lawyers arguing she was a victim of sex trafficking. Responding to their claims, Begum was, quote, manipulated and exploited into absconding to Syria in 2015. The Home Office said there was no credible suspicion that she was a victim of trafficking or was at real and immediate risk of being trafficked when she left the UK. Well, the journalist who knows Shamima best, award-winning filmmaker Andrew Jury, has also dismissed suggestions of sex trafficking. And after being taken in by the death cult convert, he's here to issue a word of warning. An exclusive unseen footage filmed by Jury in a Syrian refugee camp in July, finally brought to you tonight amid her bid to return to the UK. Shamima herself lays bare for Andrew the extraordinary levels of manipulation she herself undertook to make her escape from the UK.
Is there one of you more dominant or all free? Yeah?
The one who left before us.
Was that Shamima as well?
Shamima.
Shamima.
Yeah, Shamima. If she had not been radicalised, I don't think we would have been radicalised. Now with the internet, it's so easy to just access information.
Didn't any of these bloody people see you changing them?
No, it was very... I kept it a secret.
So you were calculated then about doing it? You knew?
Yeah. People told me, like, hide it from your family and hide it from everyone. Don't be open about it.
Did you have a good cover story, though? Did you prepare, right?
Yeah, we just said we were going on holiday. Like, for the it was a holiday, you know.
When did they ask you where you're going? You go Turkey?
No. They didn't ask anything.
Did they not? Just going on holiday? And that was good enough?
No one asked, but, like, if someone asked us, we would have said we're going on holiday for the weekend.
So you'd already prepared what you were going to say?
So, Andrew, you have... Great to see you, by the way. You have spent hours and hours with Begum. You are the journalist who knows her best. You have investigated her story now for years.
Yes.
You say, in all of these interviews, she's never said that she's been a victim of sex trafficking.
No, I've spent, as you know, a year and a half with her. And, you know, right from the beginning, like I say, she started... her conversations with me, like she had this apologetic, she'd become a victim. The victim's now gone on to sex trafficking. What she explained to me, how, when she got there, she was given a husband, she had a choice. And her life, she said, she loved. She loved her husband. Fantastic, sit down, watch Louis Theroux on the TV, played with her kids. She didn't want to leave there. She loved it there. The only reason she left was because of the bombing. So there was no sex traffic. She wasn't... and also... this radicalisation never took place. She seeked it. She looked for it. She had a friend called Shamima.
We heard her talk about.
Yeah, that she talked about. She made the organisation. So there wasn't this, like, I'm hearing this catalogue of people, these spy stories. It was simple for her. One person organised it and she just travelled through. There was a lot of connections. And I was so shocked about this sex traffic. I mean, I've spent hours talking to her. She's never once mentioned this is new. And it angers me because it means that she's... From the beginning, when I was sucked in by her, she's just lying.
Well, yes, because obviously, to begin with, we disagreed on Begum. I never trusted her, but you have now come to my way of thinking. You think she's a manipulator.
She certainly manipulated me. But it started to break down. I think the major point was when she told me... She's been texting me for about a year, so I got lists of hundreds of texts, and one particular text broke it down to me. I mean, I had a brother that died really young. She had 3 kids. And she showed me pictures of them. She said, I was honoured to show you pictures. And I, at that time, thought it was. And she said, in a text, I said, I was so sad seeing your kids. I'm so sorry for your loss. She said, I'm over that part of my life now.
Oh.
And at that point then, I thought...
Well, she's over the children who she effectively killed with her decision.
One of them's buried outside the prison.
Despicable. Now, look, Andrew, Shamima also told you she's serious about being reintegrated into British society. Look at this.
I think you'd be embracing the British way and doing Jubilee.
Of course, yeah. I want to be as British as possible.
Yet, in the same breath, she seems to try to blame her radicalisation on racism she supposedly experienced at school in the UK.
Was it hard being a... You know, was your faith hard around the area, or were you surrounded by... Was there any racism or things?
That's why I said that I did not like my primary school, because I faced like some racism there as well.
Did you? What, constantly?
Not constantly, but like at a young age, just one thing is enough to like...
Was there bullying? Did you get bullied?
Not bullied, but like just little comments and stuff, and like favoritism with teachers to white kids over...
So you had that favoritism from white kids to you, so at that point you would say... And what sort of age were you then?
Like 7, 8.
So 7, 8.
So, Andrew, that's going to anger a lot of people because it feels like the next phase of the Begum strategy might be to blame horrible racist UK for the reason that she chose to go and join the ISIS terrorists.
Yeah, 100%. She's trying everything, absolutely everything. Racism, I reckon, will be the next thing. So someone's feeding her. She's not, these things that she's come out of, means this sex trafficking.
Who's backing her?
She's got a documentary coming out, and the difference between my last time with her, when we've fallen out over a text, because she doesn't like a news story I wrote in the Daily Mail. She said it's not the story, don't like the Daily Mail. So somebody's...
Why? It's the best newspaper. I'm a columnist for the Mail Online.
And I love it.
Shamima, get with the programme.
She can't stand... she can't stand the Daily Mail. She can't stand it. So she said... And I said to her, my last text was where I said, oh, you moan about the story put in the Mail, but what about what you've done to our country?
Yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable.
And we talk too much about her. So for me, I spend a lot of time in Syria and Raqqa. We talk about poor Shamima in a prison camp that's got air conditioning, but we don't talk about the victims inside refugee camps, the effects of the people that she was with.
No, indeed. Very good point. That was award-winning journalist and filmmaker Andrew Jury, whose new book, Trip Hazard, is out now. Andrew, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Coming up, after being awarded for unproven claims of royal racism, should Harry and Meghan really be anyone's heroes? Royal biographer Angela Levin uncancelled at 10:45. But first, following a radical NHS proposal, should menopausal women be allowed to work from home? My superstar panel return, as do the newspaper front pages, hot off the press. That's in the Media Buzz, straight after the break.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Monday to Thursday, 10 till 12, on TV, on radio, and online.
Every Friday and Sunday night from 9, it's Mark Dolan Tonight.
We're on the same page again. There's something weird happening.
Let Ian finish. Don't be such a cranky.
That mini budget was the tip of the iceberg.
And on Saturday, my show just got bigger. From 8, it's Mark Dolan's Saturday Night In.
You can't govern a country if you can't speak. Stop talking.
My God, we reached the end. I've never been early in my life. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing. You see, amazing.
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
Hello, I'm Alastair Stewart, and I'd invite you to join me at noon on Saturdays and Sundays for Alastair Stewart and Friends. I've been in this business for over 40 years. Now, here at GB News, I've never been happier. I get to choose the big stories that really interest me. We hear what you have to say, and you hear what I have to say. I really hope you can join me, noon on Saturdays and Sundays.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Let's Let's return to tomorrow's news tonight now in our Media Buzz. Front pages, Guardian leads on its own investigation to Conservative peer Michelle Mone and her children, who reportedly received £29 million from the profits of a PPE business, awarded large government contracts following their alleged recommendation to Ministers Mone and her husband say they had no involvement in the company PPE MedPro and no role in the process through which the company was awarded its government contracts. PPE MedPro denied it was awarded contracts because of company or personal connections. The Independent alleges that an overstretched Coast Guard team working 20 hours a day made critical mistakes during the response to the drowning of 27 migrants a year. It reportedly took British and French Coast Guards 12 hours to respond following the first Mayday call as they argued over who was responsible. The Sun leads with the accusation from dying TV host Johnny Irwin that a Place and the Sun bosses dumped him from the programme as soon as he told them he had terminal cancer. What a disgrace if this is true. The presenter claims he was paid off mid-series following the diagnosis. Now, Channel 4 and the production company Freeform claimed they were unable to secure adequate insurance cover for Johnny. Goodness me, on the Daily Telegraph, GPs failing to see patients face-to-face will be named and shamed for the first time, amid concern that poor access to family doctors is fuelling a growing A&E crisis. From tomorrow, damning data will be published on every GP surgery in England. And the Daily Express leads on expert predictions that a new dementia drug, the first proven to slow Alzheimer's, could be ready for the UK next year. And that is a very good piece of news. My superstar panel return now. Former editor, current columnist at the Daily Star, Dawn Neeson. Star of The Chase, Mark Lebet, a.k.a. The Beast. And broadcaster Sam Dowler. Now, the Chief Executive of NHS England, Amanda Pritchard, has said that women who are going through menopause should be allowed to work from home, given lighter duties and cooler uniforms. These are the first ever national NHS guidelines on menopause to help women thrive at all ages, and women working within the health service will be able to work remotely if their symptoms demand it. Pritchard has encouraged other employers to follow suit, and writing in The Telegraph, she said female health workers who were, quote, silently suffering should not be expected to just grin and bear it. Dawn Neeson, I am concerned about this because you think about the pressure the NHS is under. It needs as many staff as possible on the front line. Now, menopausal women, that is obviously a huge potential age bracket, and I just worry that these sweeping sort of work from home orders could actually cause serious issues.
Look, I mean, the NHS is one of the biggest employers of women in the country. 1.3 million employees, 1 million of those are female. A lot of them will fall into the menopause and the perimenopause bracket, which the symptoms can be just as bad, and a lot of women are very unsure about what they're going through, whether it's menopause or not at that stage. Now, obviously, as a woman, and of a certain age, I think, in theory, anything that supports women who are suffering with the menopause is basically a good thing. But I have doubts about the sort of policies that treat menopause as an illness, almost like a disease, and makes women perceived to be weaker, the weaker sex. Most women don't want to be treated like that. I'm very concerned that treating the menopause in this way, like, you know, treating like little women with kid gloves, will lead to women being victimised more. Maybe, not maybe the NHS, but maybe employers considering I'm not employing a woman of a certain age because she might start saying,
well, of course.
menopause. So
I'm worried that they're going to work from home all the time.
Yeah, I'm worried. And obviously, an awful lot of jobs you can't do from home.
Sam, you're furious about this. You say anyone with menopause should be able to work from home permanently?
Let's cut through the old crap cake here. If menopause was something that happened to men, there would have been an injection 50 years ago that would have sorted people out, and they'd have been fine about it. But there isn't, because it happens to women, and it affects women in different ways. Like sometimes sometimes not that many symptoms, sometimes loads. So of course, and also that it's something that can be registered. It's a hormonal thing. You can have a blood test, and you can tell if there are if you have perimenopausal symptoms.
But how can nurses and doctors work from home, Sam?
Well, obviously, they would arrange that at the time. They would say, well,
how?
You work from home. We don't know that, do we? So it's a system that needs to obviously be addressed.
But it's
And it hasn't been
impossible.
No, but it's the same as with women who suffer from losing a baby, for example. They don't. These are things that people don't talk about. They haven't talked about for years, and the same with menopause.
No, but
as
I'm
well.
talking practically.
Yes, of course. But we are men discussing it. Dawn is here as a woman.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm allowed to discuss it as somebody. No, I don't buy into those sorts of identity politics.
It's not.
I will discuss it.
It's not identity politics. Like if someone has had a woman has had a miscarriage, for example, people do not talk about it.
So as a man, you think I shouldn't be able to have a view on this story?
1 in 4 pregnancies end in miscarriage. 1 in 4, but people do not talk about it. And menopause, people don't talk about that either. This is something that should be.
I think you'll find we're talking about it right now.
Yeah, of course,
you'll find it was on the front page of the Daily Telegraph.
It should be addressed. And for goodness sakes, we've just come out of the pandemic, whereby everyone can work from home. Everyone can work from home if you want to.
No, they can't.
Yes, yeah, I know.
They can't. Have you seen the state of our economy?
I'm not saying they're a hairdresser.
Okay, I want to bring Mark in.
You're making it like they're a hairdresser and they don't want to come in because they're,
I think it's pretty important for people in the NHS to be at work. But Mark, look, I'm not trying to belittle for a second how debilitating menopause can be. It absolutely can be. But what I worry about is these sweeping generalisations of work-from-home orders.
I think that's the problem. And work from home is crippling the economy.
Yeah.
Let's call it like it is.
Yes.
That's why we're all going to have to pay taxes. As for the menopause thing, I'm going to defer my answer totally to my good and smarter friend, Carol Vorderman. Give every woman that wants HRT, give it now, today.
Yeah.
Agreed.
That's my opinion on the subject.
Well, Dawn, that's the point, isn't it? Deal with the issue. Deal with the issue. Try and make menopause as easy as possible for women so that they don't have to work from home. And by the way, I am absolutely for all of the practical ideas like reducing temperature where they work, making uniforms easy, all of that. But I'm very concerned that Britain is developing a culture of working from home. And that culture, as Mark says, is crippling our economy. And I don't want that culture to start crippling our NHS.
I totally agree. I don't support working from home. I mean, and an awful lot of women that work in the NHS won't be able to do their jobs from home. But it's good that we are talking about it, and I think it's good that more men are talking about it now and more men are aware of the symptoms that women go through, because let's face it, men have to live with women who are going through this. I mean, I was lucky enough to interview Penny Lancaster recently, Rod Stewart's wife, and she didn't know what was going on when she was perimenopausal. She ended up sobbing in the corner of the kitchen, throwing plates at Rod Stewart and the kids, and it was the menopause that was causing that. So the more we talk about it, the more we understand it. And this isn't a three-line whip that you will work from home. It's just giving women the opportunity.
I know, but I think,
if they are really
when
suffering.
you start giving that choice as some sort of widespread
Dan,
thing,
if you're
actually
feeling,
it will start to be abused.
If you are feeling poorly for whatever reason, right, whether it's a menopause or something else, you can't go to work.
Pritchard's saying.
That's not quite what she's saying, no, but
there might have been other reasons that Penny Lancaster threw plates at Rod Stewart.
What?
But at least
let's not go there.
Some of his worst hits, perhaps.
Oh, come on! If I was watching Rod Stewart sing in the kitchen, I'd just keep eating away.
I don't think he's sexy, and I don't want his body.
Now look, it's one of the UK's favourite Christmas films
Penny
ever.
has got hot legs, though.
And 20 years later, the Love Actually cast are finally getting together for a reunion. Airing on ABC network ABC next week, the laughter and secrets of Love Actually 20 years later will look at how the film became a beloved Christmas tradition with new insights into behind-the-scenes secrets. Look.
Just wait until you hear how the stars answer this question now.
Love Actually is...
And how did Hugh answer?
Dead. Dead.
Do you remember when you saw it all the way through for the first time and the first thing you thought?
I do. Hugh came up behind me as we were walking out and said, "Is that the most psychotic thing we've ever been in?"
Did I say that?
I just hope Hugh Grant's Prime Minister hasn't been chucked out of Downing Street in a globalist MSM coup by then. Sam Dullum, Mark Bitch.
Let it go. Let it go.
That's Frozen. Not Love Actually.
Did Rod Stewart sing that?
Stand by, my superstar panel will be back shortly. But coming up, have the German football team showing up England's virtue signalling hypocrites with their protests against FIFA's attempt to gag them. We'll discuss that as I name tonight's greatest Britain and Union jackass. But first, after being awarded for unproven claims of royal racism, should Harry and Meghan really be anyone's heroes? Top royal biographer, Prince Harry's biographer too, Angela Levin, uncancelled, straight after the break.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
I think I've seen probably quite enough of Matt Hancock to last me a lifetime.
I'll also be getting to know you better, travelling to find out what you think about the politicians who are fighting for your vote.
They've got to get this country back on track.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. only on GB News, on TV, radio and online.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing. You see, amazing.
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
It's time for Uncancelled, where Britain's top commentators speak out on controversial issues without the fear of the cancel culture sweeping the rest of the media. Yesterday, the royal family wowed the nation and the world, actually, in a stunning display of unity as they welcomed the President of South Africa in the first state visit since the death of Queen Elizabeth the Great. But it was the new Princess of Wales who was the real showstopper, a vision of class. Kate paid a touching tribute to the late monarch by wearing a brooch featuring her image, and to her late mother-in-law, Diana, by donning her favourite lover's knot tiara. Meanwhile, across the pond, Meghan Markle was busy casting off the last of her dignity by releasing this.
As you're getting older, you're exploring and starting to understand your sensuality, your feminine divine, your sexuality. Oftentimes it can be very much used against you. And I give the example of, for a woman especially versus a man. A man, if he is a player or out having fun or whatever he's doing, it's often celebrated, even heralded. But for a woman, I don't care if she is perhaps the most successful woman in finance in her mid-50s. I promise you someone will still go, yeah, but she was such a slut in college.
Now, some folk online have said that was a bit hypocritical when back in 2013 she was happily playing up to that very archetype, even fetishising her Catholic schoolgirl uniform. Watch.
Got all dolled up for you. You can pinch me, I'm real. See, oh yes.
I just wanted to do it again.
I grew up on the set of Married with Children every day after school for 10 years. It's a very perverse place for a little girl who went to Catholic school, no less, to grow up, because I'm there in my school uniform, right? But yes, I think once upon a time it was curly, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I had very curly hair.
Did you know? We'll have a little broccoli slumber party.
Megan's also my wife's name.
I get called Meg, Nutmeg, all sorts.
Nutmeg?
Cringe. Call me old-fashioned, but that behaviour coupled with slagging off your family for money doesn't exactly scream heroic. But incredibly, the Robert F. Kennedy Human Rights Foundation has decided to honour the Sussexes with the Ripple of Hope Award for taking a stand against, quote, structural racism in the monarchy based on the pack of unproven claims, I would say lies, they made in that Oprah interview last year. Well, royal biographer Angela Levin, of course, she knows Prince Harry very well, joins me now. When you look at all of this, Angela, it is just even more extraordinary, is it not, that they're going to be picking up an award for being heroes for telling lies about the royal family?
I think it's a colossal mistake, and it just shows you that somebody sees a programme years ago and they actually believe everything about it. Obviously, the daughter of Kennedy has not actually seen any of the comments where there were so many errors, so many lies, shocking lies, and no proof. So how that's happened, I think it's appalling. Loads of people are really, really fed up and astonished by it. But it actually makes me feel sick that actually Harry, who was close to his father until he got married, actually felt that he could accept money and an award for trying to prove that his family was racist with no proof. There's zero proof. I mean, it's absolutely unthinkable, but he's obviously doing what he's told. I mean, he's becoming weaker and weaker, and Meghan just gives him orders, it seems, and he does it. Because I don't think any man, we're talking about men and women here, if we don't think any man would actually want to do that to his family. He can go away, live a life that he wants, but I don't think you then bring up something where there is absolutely no proof. In fact, the only person I know there's anything said about them being racist is Harry, because he wore a swastika on his arm when he went to a fancy dress party.
He dressed up as a Nazi.
Yes, that's right. And
he also used the P word multiple times when referring to one of his old army colleagues.
Yes,
so
a
actually,
Pakistani colleague.
Yes, so the only evidence we have of racism within the royal family is from Harry himself. He's now winning the award for exposing structural racism in the royal family. It's utterly bizarre. I did think that contrast yesterday, Angela, though, couldn't be greater. And I just wonder if Harry sits back sometimes and wonders what might have been. Because you've got Meghan talking about sluts on a podcast that is completely flopping on Spotify. Now, no one wants to listen to this thing.
Down the list.
I mean, no one wants to listen to it.
Just after the lullabies, no less.
Well, that's saying something, because that would put me to sleep.
Yeah.
But then Harry and Meghan could have been at that state dinner last night. If they had remained in the royal family, they would have been at that state dinner. They would have had a real opportunity to, because you can see the changing language from King Charles. Now, I don't agree with it, you know, the sort of regret for colonialism and all of that, but he's going down that path. Harry and Meghan would have actually played a genuine role in history, and when you look at what they're doing and you contrast it to Kate there, you just see how far they've fallen.
She's gone back to where she was, really, hasn't she? She's gone backwards.
C-list American
She's got more money, but she's gone right backwards in what interests her, and to do podcasts and to talk to people. It's
her pals, basically, the Hollywood pals.
Yeah, which are only there because she can then describe something else about herself or another moan. I mean, it's pathetic, actually. And
it's
when
sad,
you saw the
dignity,
when you saw the dignity of yesterday, and absolutely the stunning beauty of the whole thing, the tables and the smiles and the courtesy, was just Britain at its best, I think.
And despite obviously wanting to their privacy, Angela, they are actually giving us a slew of revelations, because we now hear this horrible Netflix reality series is going to be released on the 8th of December, before Christmas.
Well, Harry's tried really, really hard to get it after Christmas, which makes you think that there's something in it that actually is not going to be nice. So.
Yeah, because they're going to destroy the royal family.
They're going to try again.
And then the book, Spare,
How can
right
you
at the
hit
start
somebody?
of January.
Why do you want to smash them and yet hang on to your titles? It's completely ridiculous.
But also, Angela, just from a human perspective, right?
Yes.
This is the first Christmas for the royal family without Queen Elizabeth the Great. This is going to be such a difficult Christmas for the family. Harry and Meghan, by all accounts, from what we've heard, I don't know if you've heard differently, but they're not planning to attend. So they're not grieving with their family, but it's not even like they're not grieving with their family. They're actually rubbing salt in the wounds of a grieving
he's still
family.
very upset, I've heard, Charles. He finds it difficult. He finds he misses her very, very much. Sometimes when parents are very old, you just never believe they're going to leave you.
And he was really hit by the death of Prince Philip.
Yes, so he's lost both parents in a very short time. So to be attacked, actually, by a son he still loves, doesn't approve of anything he's doing, but he still loves. And he did like Meghan. He gave her every chance and every opportunity.
He walked her down the aisle.
I know, very nicely, and helped her mother to walk back.
It's actually a real tragedy. It's a real tragedy what's happened.
It is a tragedy, but I think she planned to use the whole family to get her money and to get her known and carry on from there, because I think she seems so hard. She won't actually compromise in any way, and I think I don't feel sorry for Harry, because he's old enough to know that he should stand on his own 2 feet, but he obviously can't do anything that she doesn't want. He said before the wedding what Meghan wants, Meghan gets, but actually it's very sad, and the children never see the parents of their father. Let's wait and see when they grow up how offended they are that they haven't known anything about it.
Well, they might actually end up being angry that their parents cut them out of this incredible royal family.
That's what I mean.
Well, look, Angela Levenhoff, it's going to be a very busy week and next few weeks, actually, for the Royals, so I know you'll be keeping us posted with everything going on behind the scenes, so thank you so much, Royal biographer Angela Levin. But it's time now to reveal tonight's Greatest Britain and Union Jackass. My superstar panel return. Sam Dowler, let's start with you tonight. Who is your Greatest Britain?
My Greatest Britain is Alex Scott. My mistake.
That's a good start. Salad to me.
It's Alex Scott. She wore the One Love armband despite everybody getting thrown out or getting them taken off of them in the streets in Qatar.
Oh, but by the way, she had absolutely no problem travelling to Dubai, where being gay is illegal, and she also had absolutely no problem posing for pictures with Vladimir Putin. So I don't know, maybe not the best person to virtue signal, but there you go. Mark Lebet, the Beast. Who's your Greatest Britain?
That great Yorkshireman, Harry Maguire. Central defender for England, not the greatest athlete, but he's worked and worked his socks off, gives 100%. And more importantly, I can see that big head of his sticking in the winning goal in the World Cup final.
Fingers crossed. Dawn Neeson, your Greatest Britain, please.
There's a football theme tonight, isn't there? Mine are honorary Greatest Britons, and it's the Germans today. It's the Germans for actually making a stand in the World Cup, unlike our lot, who actually, what armband? No, not wearing an armband. Just proving how much virtue signalling they do the rest of the year.
OK, well, look, I don't like the football virtue signalling. Not sure if you've picked that up. So I'm going to go for Mark Lebet and Harry Maguire, because it's just about the football, and I just wish this week we could just talk about the football and stop the virtue signalling stuff. Union Jackass time now. Sam Dowler, who are you nominating?
Well, it's not just about the football, first of all, but secondly, like I'm going to say, it's David Beckham. He is my jackass because even though I know people who work for him, and obviously he's been an LGBTQ ally for many years, but he's taken the money, so much money from Qatar, and not a single word from him or any of his party about what he's going to do with it or whatever. And, I think it's shameful, really.
I actually do agree with you on that, I have to admit. Mark Lebet, your Union Jackass nominee.
I feel a bit mean about this because I should have perhaps picked other union leaders.
Do you know what? That was a Freudian slip, but I totally agree with you.
Am I on push camera? OK, thank you. I should have picked other union leaders, but simply because I know he is Mick Lynch, I don't blame him at all for doing what he's doing. What I do think, though, is I think he's leading his own members.
Oh, I blame him. Oh, I blame him. Dawn Neeson, your Union Jackass.
Right, OK, Stephen Fry, for an interview he's given to Attitude magazine, which manages to be horribly homophobic and misogynistic at the same time. But I'm going to add a little sneaky mention for Dan Wootton, who's saying that the World Cup is all about football. There's a lot more to this World Cup than the football.
Dawn, Dawn, I agree with that, and I love the fact that you are boycotting it, but what I'm saying is I can't bear the people who are there, who are earning money from this despicable tournament, but then trying to preach to us. That's the point I'm trying to make. Sorry, I didn't explain that properly. But I'm going to go for a double win for Mark, because, of course, Mick Lynch, or he used the P word, the Christmas Grinch. Certainly tonight's Union Jackass. Dawn Neeson, Mark Levette, the Beast, Sam Dalla, thank you so much. I'm back again tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Good night.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. And it's about standards and public life. No, I'll tell you what's hypocrisy, Narinda. I guarantee you there'll be no spin.
We believe in the UK.
No bias, no censorship.
It just doesn't make sense to me. He wasn't doing his job as Chancellor.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday.